What is the worst thing that has happened at a high school reunion party that you attended? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. It's been a decade since I finished school. I see an old classmate sometimes when he does maintenance work in my apartment block. About a year ago he asked if I was going to the reunion organized by some of our classmates. I said no, because I couldn't think of anything worse and also hadn't been invited. Apparently they organized it over Facebook, which I don't have. When I next saw him 6 months later, I asked how the reunion was and he exasperatedly explained that it had been a real shit show. The mean girls had started planning it together, fell out and then started each planning their own. So there was about 4 shitty tiny awkward parties and everyone was confused. This sounds like it should have been a TLC show where the judges vote on whose party was the best. The winner gets to go on a date with the former star QB who picks them up on his old motorcycle. Not so much at, but before. 10-year reunion for my largest school. 500 graduates per year. The plan was for the reunion to take place over Thanksgiving weekend. To help pay for the expense, raffle tickets were sent out to the entire class to sell. The reunion didn't happen. What were they going to do that couldn't be handled by just asking each attendee to pay $20 to $50? With some help available for people where paying $50 would be a hardship. At my 25th reunion, people complained about having to pay $40. When someone suggested that they would be willing to throw a couple of bucks towards anyone not being able to afford the fee, it became a shit show of privilege versus I'm not taking your charity. I was afraid something like this would happen at our reunion, so my wife and I anonymously paid for a bunch of shit and never fessed up it was us. A lot of unemployment where we grew up. One of the reasons we got the frick out and only go back to visit. It wasn't really bad, just odd. The guy came with full Kiss style makeup on, white face, black shapes around his eyes and black lips. We were too awkward and polite to mention it, so everyone just chatted with him as though it was completely normal to turn up like that. Is it possible that he just did it as a private joke? The idea being to remain straight-faced and watch people squirm. Or was he just a really big Kiss fan? I'd hope so, because that's freaking funny. Good for him. My 10-year reunion killed itself before it happened. Turns out our class president, traditionally in charge of organizing, took a hard turn into a footloose character after high school. Originally said she took a hard turn for the evangelical. Several commenters objected to me lumping this brand of crazy into evangelism, for which I apologize. Highlights of her event planning include: no alcohol allowed, not even BYOB. A few classmates in a reasonably successful band offered to play for free. She was adamant there would be no music or dancing. Plus ones were to be spouses only. 2 guys happily told her they'd bring their husbands, and she kicked them both from the Facebook page. The venue was the high school's soccer field in Iowa. In August, we were welcome to bring our own chairs. A few people offered to bring bin bags and bocce and similar games. She said no, because it would make the reunion too much like tailgating. Suggested entertainment was a guided tour of the school, which had undergone zero change since we graduated. Catering was from Hy-Vee, which is a grocery store. Their food is actually okay, but tickets were $60. It was ultimately cancelled, because out of our class of 300, less than 10 people bought tickets. Yeah, that's a good lesson in who had authority. You can just, instead, talk to everyone else and agree to meet separately. Authoritarianism. She wanted to tell other people what they could or could not do at the expense of the group. I hope she doesn't have kids. Didn't happen to me. But I had this friend who got someone pregnant back in the day and she kept the kid. They've both been great about it. He helps financially, but that was the extent of his contribution. She married soon out of high school and met a great guy who has been the de facto dad. Either way, it's a day bring your kids if you have them event and someone let slip that my friend is that kid's real dad. And the kid heard it and it was a freaking shit show. Everyone was trying to figure out who said that, and how could someone spill that secret, etc. In the end my friend pretended he was shocked, and laughed it off as a joke, which honestly I front of the kid was probably a good move. At least the kid has 2 loving parents. That's the most important thing. At first, I just thought geez, what a dong about the person who told. But then I realized that I could totally see myself absent-mindedly saying something about it to someone else. If the kid heard it by accident, the person who told must have felt terrible. LOL. The absent-minded thing is how my great-aunts found out their stepmom wasn't their actually mum. My great-grandmother died in childbirth with the twins and my great-grandfather remarried quickly cause that's what you did. At their first communion, someone said to someone else, their mother would be so proud to see what beautiful girls they are, or something to that effect. Turned into a very interesting communion. One guy had made not one, but two fortunes and had a net worth of well over $100 million by our 20th reunion. High-speed modem patents in the late 1980s. Early investor in broadband. Right place at the right time. He'd already retired. On our classmate update bulletin he listed his occupation as unemployed and unemployable as a bit of a gag. Some of the well-meaning, but clueless types sought him out to offer encouragement and tips on how to find work. I've met two billionaires through work. One does work, and the other happily, oh so happily, leaves the life most of us only dream of. He's a super nice guy and mentioned he might go back to work after his kids are grown. He says he's lucky enough to be home with them. Graduated in 2008 and not a single word about any reunion. Reunions seem to have waned in popularity since social media blew up. You don't need to catch up in person when you see every inane detail of your former classmates' lives online. I think it's probably a combination of that and longer time spent in early adulthood. Continuing education. A few decades ago, the 10-year reunion would have been an opportunity to see how your classmates were settling into their own lives. Now we know every detail through social media, and a lot are still in the early stages of the process of stepping out on their own, moving out of home, finishing education, etc. A lot of schools don't do them. It's one of those traditions that sometimes pop up, and it's much harder to do with high schools with thousands of people. Someone I knew from school tried to arrange an unofficial reunion as the school weren't going to do one. He was socially inept, so would say and do odd things which people picked up on a lot, but his heart was always in the right place. He went to a lot of effort, but very few people responded at all. Those that did mostly made snide comments about the event behind their back, like dissing the location, etc. Some made fun of him personally too, as he was doing some admittedly odd organizing. Then close to the event he cancels and blows up, sending everyone a justified message about how they can all go suck eggs and he was just trying to do something nice and wanted to catch up with people. That was received with more snide remarks too. He died unexpectedly just a few months later. That would be my cousin. He's quite socially inept and predictably has no friends as such. His only love is biking. He tried to arrange meetups so often, and nobody ever showed any interest. The last attempt he made was filling on his birthday. The poor guy just wanted to go out and ride with people he considered as friends on his special day. A group of 3 agreed to join, but then bailed on him. It was even worse that they went off on their own ride to another location. So it's not like they were busy. They just didn't want to go out with him. He did his ride all by himself and has never participated in a group ride since then. Go ride bikes with your cousin. This is the saddest thing I've read all day. Hope he was part of that group of 3. My sister, my now husband and I were all in the same graduating class. Plus, my husband's best friend. Best friend's name is something like John Smith. Very common. He was very popular in HS. Super nice guy. Stood out in a crowd. If you didn't know him, you certainly knew of him, even in a massive school. So anyway, the 20-year reunion rolls around. My sister is the only one who wanted to go. She called right after, very upset. Apparently there was a huge memorial wall for John Smith, who had just died. None of us knew. Awful. My husband was like, huh, but we just saw him. Called him up and was like, hey dude, are you dead? No, not dead. Surprised, but not dead. Anyway, it turned out the much less popular other John Smith was the one who died. They made a lovely memorial for the wrong guy, who was forgotten totally. We still run into people to this day who see him and are like, hey, aren't you supposed to be dead? This is actually horribly sad for the guy that actually died. Still freaking hysterical though. I know, right? I didn't remember him at all. And obviously nobody else did either. He died whitewater rafting, so I hope he was living his best post-HS life. Oh damn. That's so sad to hear. But yeah, at least it sounds like he was having fun and doing what he wanted. Some girl confessed to cheating on her high school sweetheart, thinking enough time had passed it wouldn't bother him. She thought wrong. Wait, is she still together with her high school sweetheart? Or she saw an old fling at the reunion and casually admitted to cheating on him. The second, They hadn't seen each other in years as far as I know. Had the same thing. Son reunion. Happened to me over the phone almost a week ago. I was catching up with her and wanted to remain friends. She just up and said sorry about the things she did. I said you didn't do much to hurt me. It was mostly my fault we didn't work out, and she dropped a "oh, I'm glad you aren't upset about me sleeping with XXX," and I just hung up. Someone told me, "You're not a failure. Be yourself." And so when I went and proudly told them what I was doing these days, working a $9.25 a HR job, going back to school, having gotten life together in a rehab and back on track, I was proud. They all pitied me and one dude tried to give me money. It made me feel bad about my current progress. I hate people. Working a $9.25 a HR job, going back to school, having gotten life together in a rehab and back on track. I was proud. You should be, man. You're dealing with your shit and you're out here trying to get better, stay better and be better. Keep it up. Don't let others diminish what you've overcome. The biggest thing I've learned is to never compare yourself to other people. I was an A and B student in high school, and I had very good grades in college, but I'm currently working in a grocery store making $14.50 an hour. I would have never thought that I would be working in a grocery store post-college, but here I am. Haha, I'm in the same boat basically. Grocery store, same exact wage. Didn't finish my degree though. Hopefully you're younger than I and didn't waste a few years literally just being drunk basically every night. Also, hope you're doing alright with the whole plague predicament. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more r/AskReddit content. Be sure to check out our playlist, link in the description below.